China, being one of the oldest civilizations on Earth, arguably the oldest continuously existing civilization, has had a lot of dynasties, some long-lived and some short-lived. Today we will talk in detail about all the short-lived ones, but there is one rule: it has to have controlled a unified China. Otherwise this video might as well just turn into a history of China minus some dynasties. Our first one is actually one of the most important Chinese dynasties, the Qin Dynasty, which lasted from 221 BC to 206 BC, so only 15 years. How did it come into being and why was it so short-lived? It all began in 771 BC, with the beginning of the Eastern Zhou period, when royal authority kept dwindling. This culminated into the Warring States period, which began in the year 475 BC, where different warlords fought each other to expand their territory and influence. The Qin was one of these states, the most powerful one in fact. It was so powerful that at times the other 6 of the 7 warring states formed vertical alliances against the Qin at times. But in the end, the Qin conquered them all. In the year 221 BC, thanks to the kingship of Xin Dynasty, who was only 13 when he succeeded the Qin throne. However, he turned out to be a great military commander once he got older, and after conquering the other warring states starting in the year 230 BC, proclaimed himself emperor, or Shi Huangdi in Chinese, instead of king, for the first time in Chinese history in 221 BC. So that's how the Qin came into being. But how did they end? Well, Emperor Qin Shi Huang, to control all the newly conquered territories, became a bit of a tyrant. He standardized writing, measurements of length and weight, the width of highways, and constructed segments of what would become the Great Wall of China. However, he also abolished feudal privileges, very based, but of course that upset a lot of powerful people, and in 213 BC ordered all books burned, other than useful ones like books on medicine, to stop subversive thought. Furthermore, tax levies were pretty large, so he was an unpopular emperor. After his death, rebellion erupted in 210 BC, which in 207 BC resulted in the end of the dynasty, and in the year 206 BC the establishment of the Han Dynasty, which would last 400 years, not just 15. And with that, our first great yet short-lived empire is gone. Yet you could argue it never died. The continued existence of China and its institutions is thanks to this short-lived empire, so thanks for nothing Qin Shi Huang, China's OP in strategy games. I briefly mentioned the Han Dynasty and how it lasted for 400 years. However, there was a short break between 9 AD and 23 AD. Thanks to a man named Wang Mang. Quite a few rhymes today, thanks China. Anyway, Wang Mang was born in 45 BC into an important family, and his aunt became the Empress of China. After her husband, the Yuan Di Emperor, died, her son, so Wang Mang's first cousin, the Cheng Di Emperor, ascended the throne. However, he wasn't really interested in ruling himself and appointed 4 matrilineally related regents, one after the other, with the last one retiring on 8 BC. Wang Mang's career meanwhile wasn't very interesting. He got a couple lowly court positions from 22 BC onwards, but became the Marquis of Xindu in 16 BC. And guess who became the next regent after the last one retired? Unfortunately, the Chengdi Emperor died without an heir just only later, and was succeeded by someone not belonging to the same clan as Wang Mang, who belonged to the Wang clan. So in 5 BC, the new ID Emperor sent Wang Mang to live on his estates at the dismay of the other courtiers, due to his very good and honest reputation. They and the general public pleaded to the emperor to call him back, which resulted in Wang Mang returning in 2 BC. The ID Emperor died a year later, and guess who became the new regent thanks to his aunt appointing him? The new Ping Di Emperor was a child emperor and betrothed to Wang Mang's daughter. The Ping Di Emperor died suddenly in 6 AD at 14 years of age. By suddenly I mean Wang Mang might have poisoned him, at least according to his opponents. Wang Mang picked the new emperor, a 1-year-old baby, was not yet enthroned. Instead, Wang Mang became the acting emperor in 6 AD. He claimed that the mandate of heaven had ended for the Han Dynasty, and on the 10th of January 9 AD he ascended the throne and proclaimed the Xin Dynasty. How was his reign? He was a very Confucian individual and tried to reform Chinese society, including distributing land more freely because fuck landowners, winning good Victoria games. He also reformed currency freely, which however caused property value to decline, which was bad for both merchants and the common folk. He was also a bit stubborn, trying to enforce the reforms when they weren't working, including due to corruption. But the worst was between 2 and 5 AD and in 11 AD, when the Yellow River flooded, which caused rebellion. One peasant military group, The Red Ivers defeated Wang Mang's armies in 18 AD, and on the 4th of October 23 AD, rebels broke through the gate of the imperial capital and a few hours later reached the imperial palace. The next morning, citizens of the city joined them, and on the 6th, Wang Mang was defeated and killed alongside his remaining followers. The Han Dynasty then continued for another 200 years compared to the Qin's 14 years. So what consequences did Wang Mang's rule have for the rest of Chinese history? Not a lot really. This world wouldn't be too different if this short-lived empire never existed. China is divided in two, North and South, and has been for 4 centuries. The North has been terrorized by the 5 barbarians, 5 tribes that have been living in northern China for a while now. And with being terrorized by them, I mean that everyone was terrorizing everyone. Barbarian or not, it's the 16 Kingdoms period, and being Han isn't required for some good old-fashioned warmongering. Although pretty much all newly proclaimed dynasties took on Han names, whether they were ethnically Han or not. Luckily for you, viewer, unfortunately for you if you love confusing Chinese dynastic chaos, we won't talk about any of them because our rules are having to rule all of China. And this was limited to the north. So, what ended this utter chaos? Long story short, northern China got whole again, then it broke again, then got whole again, another way, then it broke again, usurpation, another dynasty change, and it's whole again under the northern Zhou. Then in 581 AD, Yang Jian, also known as Wendy, usurped the northern Zhou and proclaimed himself Emperor Wen of the Sui Dynasty. And that now was nearly 300 years of northern Chinese history. Actually, regions usurping thrones is probably the entirety of Chinese history. What about the south though? It's ruled by the Qin Dynasty and had its own fair share of dynasty changes. That's all you need to know. Anyway, Wen conquered it. Should I describe it further? Nah. Anyway, let's talk about his rule. He was praised as a great emperor by many people, including the first emperor of the Ming. Why is that? Well, he lowered taxes, the food situation stabilized, the fact was very good. Additionally, he reformed the legal code to be both simpler and less harsh. His administrators were also very competent, although he was a bit of a micromanager. Additionally, he was Buddhist but also re-established some Confucian rituals. Anyway, his reign ended on the 13th of August 604, a bit over 20 years. So, was that the short-lived Sui Dynasty? Nah, he had a son. Several actually, but the one that became the new emperor was his second son, Yang Guang, originally Yang Ying, known as Emperor Yang Di of Sui from now on. Yan Yong, the older brother, was then murdered, probably on the order of Yang Ying. Emperor Yang. Wen might have been a great emperor, but man, his taste in names is bad. So, how was Emperor Yang? He started the construction of the Grand Canal, which is actually a series of waterways. It links northern and southern China and has been historically essential to supply the north with food. So that's pretty great, right? Let's say the labor wasn't very ethical. I guess some things never changed. Be it Uyghurs or whom Yang used instead, farmers, slaves and criminals. The human life cost was enormous. Yeah, Yang seemed to not value human life highly. Oh yeah, did I mention that he might have poisoned his farmer? Well, now you know. And his disregard for human life is also indirectly what caused the end of the dynasty. This is my personal analysis though. The fact that he seemed to have disregarded human life, I mean. Maybe that wasn't the case and he just needed to crack some eggs to make steamed egg pudding. Anyway, let's zoom out. Wow, those Turks seem powerful. And they're pissed because their Kagan was married to a princess of one of the dynasties that got overthrown in northern China. This rule won though. Eastern Turkic Khaganate had internal problems. I mean, after all, there was also a Western Khaganate, so I think you can see how those two infighted a lot. So yeah, the Sui managed to weaken the Eastern Turkic Khaganate even further. How about going to Korea next? Goguryeo seems small enough to attack. Just to be sure, let's muster 1 million men and 2 million support units. And we're dead. Okay, not all of them, but the casualties were at least around 300,000. And that was during the second invasion, but the first one was a failure as well. In 614, the war was finally lost with a failed fourth invasion. Due to the losses of both lives and resources, people lost their trust in the state and widespread rebellion followed. Yang moved the capital south to evade rebellions, but Yuan Huaji, a great general, launched a successful coup against Yang Di and murdered him personally in 618. And that's how the Tang Dynasty was born. The golden age of China, but the Sui lived on, because the Tang kept sponsoring the arts just like the Sui did and continued other Sui projects and reforms. They laid the foundation for the Tang. Oh yeah, also over 1 million casualties during the transition. Chinese history is so bloody. For those who don't want to do the math themselves, the Sui Dynasty lasted for 37 years. The Zhou lasted from 690 to 705, so 15 years. However, it is also very different in one key aspect. It was led by an empress. It also borrowed its name from one of the earliest and longest lasting Chinese dynasties, the Zhou Dynasty, which ran from 1046 BC to 256 BC. The Zhou Dynasty was also the dynasty that introduced the concept of the mandate of heaven. But enough about the real Zhou. Let's talk about Wu and the reasons for her Zhou LARPing. Firstly, how did she get power? She worked her way up as a concubine of Taizong, winning his favor and, after his death, marrying the next emperor, his son Gaozong, who went from 649 AD to 683 AD. That way she became empress consort and basically was the real power behind the shadows. After Gaozong's death, she took control of the government as Empress Dowager, which just means being either the widow of the former emperor or the mother of the emperor, and first placed her son, the Zongzong Emperor, on the throne, and then after exiling him, her other son, the Ruizong Emperor. She, of course, had the real power, but how did she manage to actually become the empress? Second to none. Well, she had the real power, so she declared herself Emperor of the Zhou Dynasty. Wikipedia says after getting several petitions, including one from the Ruizong Emperor. I don't really buy it, and my other sources didn't mention it either. Anyway, how was her reign? We are starting in 660 AD when she had the real power, though she wasn't the sole ruler of China yet. She invaded Korea in 668 AD, and we know how that turned out last time someone tried invading Korea. But this time it was actually very successful and Korea was reduced to a vassal state. She also retook lands from the Gok Turks, so from the Turkish Khaganate. But enough foreign policy, how about domestic policy? Well, to secure her Zhou LARPing, she imprisoned all remaining members of the Tang Dynasty royal family and proclaimed herself an incarnation of the Maitreya Buddha, so the reincarnation of the Buddha. I mean, at that point what's next? A self-proclaimed emperor calling himself a brother of Jesus Christ? Other than that, she organized a secret police and spy system in both the court and throughout the country in 660 AD. Way to go, girl boss. She also purged some high-ranking officials who weren't performing well by either executing them or forcing them to resign. She also reformed the structure of government through a purge by replacing anyone she felt like didn't carry out their duties with intellectuals and talented bureaucrats regardless of their noble status. And to be fair to her, efficiency increased and costs reduced. All hail Chairwoman Wu. She also created 10 to 13 new Chinese characters. Here they are. They were removed after her reign but still live on to this day if you ever feel like using them. Though I don't know how many people would understand them. That aside, many of her reforms were actually popular because Comrade Wu listened to the petitions of the people directly, while beforehand petitions had to go through around 2 million bureaucrats before reaching someone who could do something about it. So yeah, she reduced a lot of bureaucracy. Historian Kelly Carlton describes it like this. Wu had a petition box made, which originally contained 4 slots. One for men to recommend themselves as officials, one where citizens might openly and anonymously criticize court decisions, one to report the supernatural, strange omens and secret plots, and one to file accusations and grievances. Other than that, she reformed education by hiring dedicated teachers and of course reorganizing the bureaucracy, but also changing the teaching methods. That she also reformed agriculture by rewarding officials who produced the greatest amount of crops. She also had farming manuals written and distributed, surveyed the land and built many irrigation ditches. And also she redistributed the land so that everyone had an equal share to farm. This all increased agriculture production to an all-time high. Lastly, she reformed the military successfully by introducing exams for officers similar to the civil servant exams, and reopened the Silk Road, which was closed in 682 AD following a plague. So yeah, she may be a bit authoritarian due to the secret police, but she sounds like a competent empress, so surely her reign ended with a death from natural causes, right? No. She abdicated in 704. Why? Well, in 697 she started spending more time with her young concubines instead of governing. And of course, that age gap was scandalous. Truly awful.
朋友是一个坚韧不拔的纪录片，在香港这座城市的设置，主演钱和乐。
Though I couldn't find the exact ages, I just hope they were at least 20 for that matter. Anyway, they were the Zhang brothers. Kind of weird to have 2 siblings as your lovers, but oh well. So yeah, it being so scandalous made her paranoid, so she purged more. Also, as I said, she spent less time governing and more time fooling around. In 704, the court officials had enough and had the Zhang brothers murdered the next year, and had her abdicate on the 23rd of February, 3 days after the murders. So what afterwards? Remember her exiled son, the Zongzong Emperor? He returned to power, who died a year later from her poor health. All in all, he either went from 606 to 705, pretty much having the power, so 45 years, or officially a sole ruler of China from 690 to 705, so 15 years. So what's her legacy? I think he was pretty alright, definitely a girl boss, that's for sure. A lot of her terror was also fabricated by sexist historians of the time, or paid more attention to than if a man did it. Also props to invading Korea and not failing. Next I was going to talk about the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, but they didn't rule all of China even for a moment, so sadly I'm skipping them. But lastly, oh, this is gonna be such a pain to map. I'll make this one short. Revolution, China Republic now, warlords, Yuan Shikai made first president of China, Yuan wins power struggle against the Kuomintang in 1913, makes himself president for life, 21 demands from Japan, which were reduced to 13 to be more lenient, Yuan Shikai accepts them, fourth an ultimatum from Japan to save face. Finally, Yuan Shikai, on December 12, 1915, declares himself Emperor of China. It was argued that China needs a constitutional monarchy for stability. This, however, alienated his allies, including ones in the military, and caused even more opposition backed by Japan. Thus began the National Protection War against the monarchy. Though he abolished the monarchy again on March 22, 1916, and tried to return to being president for life, but died 3 months later. But thought was an even worse power struggle that wouldn't be resolved until 1949. Oh, also the Qing got restored for 11 days, so I guess you could count the Qing as another short-lived dynasty. But I won't do that. But thank you for watching until the end. Those were all the short-lived dynasties of China that controlled all of China and not just small portions of China.